AITA for leaving in an Uber after what my husband did at the restaurant. Me, 31F, and my husband, 35M, have been married for 14 months. He's a middle school teacher, very close to his family, loves to help out but can be firm at times. He adores his 1.2-year niece, his sister's baby. He always babysits whenever he's got nothing to do. I help with whatever I can. We haven't gotten out for a nice dinner in a while. I asked if we could go out to a new restaurant and try their food and have good time together. He agreed. I immediately made reservations and took care of everything. Since I couldn't take the day off, I left work early and went to meet him there at the restaurant. I walked in and saw my husband sitting and his niece in a car seat by the table. I asked and he said his sister had work and wanted him to watch his niece. His family were out of town, so there was no one else beside him. I noticed the restaurant staff were giving us looks since it's not a child-friendly restaurant, and I was worried the baby'd cry or something. She was asleep then. We ordered our meals while he was calming his niece down cause she was crying out loud. He kept asking the waitress about stuff they don't have for his niece. I couldn't take the looks from people unable to enjoy their meals cause of the noise husband's niece was making, especially when he started singing You're Welcome from Moana movie while swinging her. I got up to the restroom. Few minutes later I heard him arguing loudly. I went to see that he was actually trying to change his niece's diaper on the table. The waitress was arguing with him. I was in shock. The manager came after my husband said he'd take a minute to get it done. The manager spoke to me and asked me to leave eventually. I was livid. We left and I blew up outside. Asked my husband why the table while people were eating. That he could have told me. Otherwise I wouldn't have picked a restaurant that doesn't allow infants. That he embarrassed me, ruined dinner and got us kicked out. He started arguing with me like I was one of his students after I refused to get in the car, giving me 0-10 for my reaction and claiming I picked a bad restaurant. Said that he was helping his sister, and I needed to understand that. After the argument I took an Uber and went home. He went to his sister's place and called saying I shouldn't have left like that and make him feel guilty for wanting to help. I didn't respond. Edit: I just want to say that my husband is the one who insists on taking his niece. He doesn't consider this babysitting, he just loves to be with her and take care of her. He said he wants us to adopt since it's our only way of having children, medical reasons. He absolutely adores kids, so I understand his bond with his niece. But the restaurant incident was blamed on me. He thinks my reaction was over the top, and honestly I have no idea why he thinks people should mind their own business when he's behaving like that in a public place. NTA gave me a 0-10 for my reaction. What? Oh hell no. Oh my gosh. NTA. His wanting to be helpful shouldn't be prioritized over your and his needs. He seems to believe everything should revolve naturally around his helpfulness without recognizing the effect. Also, that pattern aside, it's intensely rude and unsanitary to change a diaper on a table, whether it's Burger King or a 5-star restaurant. Best that's woefully ignorant and thoughtless. At worst it's showboating how helpful he is without recognizing the impact on others. Getting kicked out of the restaurant was entirely his fault, and instead of recognizing his mistakes, he blames you for choosing the restaurant? Like there's such thing as any restaurant in the world who would allow what he did! Exclamation mark. Not to mention the effort you put in and requested for this to be a date night, prioritizing each other's company. He sounds stuck in head with an idea of him being above reproach because of how helpful he thinks he is. I would seriously consider counseling. NTA. He should have told you, so you could have gone somewhere else to eat. Also, changing diapers in the middle of a restaurant is absolutely not acceptable. First of all, I'm sorry for the late response. And yes, exactly, that's what bothered me. He could have simply let me know. I did not expect this from him. It's the first time I see him do it. I told him about how others felt while they were eating, and the issues he says he doesn't care and that they should just mind their own business. But this is a public place. Claims that I'm against the idea of him spending time with his niece, but that is not true. He was actually trying to change his niece's diaper on the table. NTA. This is gross. Your husband should have given you the heads up so you could book a different restaurant or even declined his sister's request because it was your date night. Thank you for being the only self-aware adult at that table. Some places are just not suitable for young children. AITA for insisting it's my sister's own fault she got dropped from her university classes, and telling my family I refuse to feel sorry for her. Her classes are all remote, through Zoom, don't even need a webcam on, just log on to the class so the teacher sees your name there and checks it off. But I guess that was too much for her, and she would rather sleep all day instead. She's missed the past 2 weeks straight. The university policy is if you miss 2 weeks of classes you get dropped. I know, I go there too. So of course yesterday when she tried to log on she found she was dropped from everything. She was distraught because she thought she was going to get in trouble with mom and dad. Honestly, I was worried they would kick her out with how they'd been talking when I started going a few years ago. If you drop out you gotta find a new place to live and all that. While I don't feel bad for her getting dropped from the classes, I wouldn't want her to be homeless. Instead of being upset, mom and dad just tried to comfort her, telling her lies about how it's not her fault. The school was too harsh. I was planning on keeping my feelings to myself, but mom kept bugging me asking for me to try and help make her feel better. After the 7th or 8th time that night I snapped and said my piece, saying how she knew the school's rules. We all were well aware of them, but she'd rather sleep all day than go to class for the past 2 weeks. So no, I refuse to feel sorry for her that her own actions caught up with her. You said if I ever did anything like this I'd be kicked out. But now you're just coddling her. Mom said the pandemic has been hard on us all, and that it should be understandable if people don't have the energy to go to class. Said I would agree, but sis has somehow found the energy to go to very unsafe house parties each and every weekend since the pandemic started, including the 2 she skipped class, putting everyone in the house at greater risk. But somehow she doesn't have the energy for school. Mom and sis aren't talking to me right now. Dad is torn on who to side with. Edit. Yes, mom and dad know my sister parties. Mom is afraid her missing out on a year or 2 of dating and socializing will lead to her being single forever. I am engaged already, before you ask. Edit 2. Just to reiterate, I didn't say anything until mom pushed me to. Also, far as I've been told, I'm the only one in the family diagnoses with depression. NTA, I'm big on accountability. Your sister can't take accountability for something that is clearly her and her fault alone, and your parents aren't doing her any favors by placing blame elsewhere. This will repeat itself in other areas for years to come. Turning on a computer is so much easier than getting yourself up and heading onto campus. Take close to 0 effort to do. Your parents giving her a pass and handing her an excuse for her behavior is enabling her, and it will burn them in the end. Should they kick her out? No. But consequences are important. For instance, my sister screwed up one semester and my parents were paying for school. They made her pay the next semester and they would pay her back if she passed. It worked. Hopefully whomever paid for school can still get reimbursed for this semester. Nah, it's inappropriate for your parents to demand that you comfort your sister. That's some seriously boundary-crossing behavior when you made it clear you weren't comfortable with it. But I can tell you that, as a university professor, I have never seen so many students simply drop off the face of the planet during remote/hybrid classes like I have during the pandemic. Some of the students are highly successful in some courses, but can't cope with the demands of others. Most have simply reached their breaking point in terms of their mental health. University counseling services are overwhelmed. Professors have become therapists. Remote learning at university, where for many young people an important part of college is to socialize, is impossible for some. So, not only could partying be a coping mechanism for whatever mental health issues she's facing, it could be a way for her to get the socialization she would partly be getting if in-person classes were happening. And then there are plenty of students who are thriving, like it sounds like you are, during remote learning. The difference isn't laziness. I would imagine you have different personalities, life experiences, general ability, and methods for coping with stress. I urge you to take a more compassionate approach towards your sister. She, and other students like her, desperately need it. But you do not need to take on the burden and responsibility of making her feel better. She needs counseling, and sadly the chances of her finding someone with availability might be slim. It seems like people are really supportive about mental health issues until a person makes mistakes that could be caused by her mental health issues. Partying with excessive substance use and risking health is a sign of a mental health struggle. This whole family needs to seriously check in with her. Sleeping all day for 5 days is not just a sign of laziness. There could be something seriously wrong with her. ETA. Also seeing a lot of comments saying depression. There are more mental health issues than just depression. I have BPD, and boy oh boy does your sister sound like me at the worst times in my life. Info, with the way your parents are acting it sounds like there's more going on here. Is your sister depressed? Kinda seems like your parents are already aware of that if she is. AITA for telling my ex she'll have to live without her closure. I'm going to cut to the chase. I, 36M, got about a year or so left before making that final trip to the afterlife. I've made my peace with it and these last few years have been the best of my life. We've known for a while that I was living on borrowed time, so we vacationed a lot before COVID. Everyone knows I probably won't be here by next year. Well, as it turns out, my old ex decided to come back into my life. We were together since high school. Before I proposed, I found out she was cheating with one of her friends and broke up when we were 27. It was the darkest time of my life until I was pushed into going to therapy. 3 years later I got back into dating and met my wife. Got married after 2 years and we have been together ever since. She's been the most incredible partner through all this and I don't know how I would have made it without her. You can guess why my ex came back. She'd like us to meet so she could formally apologize to me and have one last conversation. I said no way. He is the last person I want to see right now and didn't take it well, I guess. Our families are somewhat close. Her parents have been my aunt's neighbors before either of us were even born, so they still saw each other after we split. My aunt heard from her folks that I'm refusing to see her and she's gotten my parents involved. Now they all hate her, except my aunt who always had a soft spot for her. But they do feel like maybe we should talk before I go. I don't know what exactly they think this will bring, aside from just dragging up painful memories. I don't want to bring up anything from the past and focus on making the most with my wife and family. They left it alone at first until my ex tried reach me again asking to please meet. My ex says she heartbroken over my condition and just wants us to talk so we can have closure. But I explained to her I had mine years ago and am in a better place. And where I believe I was the asshole was telling her she's gonna have to live without hers. I'm getting a little more ridicule from my aunt and my dad. Mom's still a bit on my side about it. They do think what I said was very insensitive and it's clearly painful for her knowing what she did to me and that I'll be gone soon. My wife is completely on my side here and actually gave my dad a piece of her mind. It was pretty hot, so see, she rarely ever yells, for making things more complicated for me. They've left me alone, but it's still on my mind and I don't know how exactly I was an asshole for saying that. I had said it as statement, there's no reason for us to speak except it being for her benefit, and since I'd rather not, then she will in fact have to live without that closure. NTA. With the time you have left, you should decide how to spend it. Your ex only wants to talk for her own selfish reasons. You moved on, and you certainly don't owe her any favors.